You are watching the YouTube uncut version of episode 3 of Live Set Apart. Thank you so much for visiting my channel. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on this video because I would love to discuss your comments in episode 4 where I unpack this episode. So in episode 3, I talked with BJ Word, a spoken word artist and counselor. And let me tell you, she is so inspiring and encouraging just to hear the story of how she has grown from someone who was uncomfortable even being the person who God created her to be to the bold woman that she is now. And you're going to be inspired by her story. And we are definitely soul sisters because she said a lot of things that you have already heard me say in previous videos. And she even said things during this interview that I wanted to say before I got to say them. So we were definitely divinely connected, and I just know that you are going to be blessed by hearing her story. You're going to be inspired and you're going to be encouraged to be that person who God created you to be. So I'm excited that you tuned in to the channel. If you don't have time to sit and watch, or if you want to multitask, you can listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. So thanks again for checking out my channel. Remember to like, share, and subscribe and comment. And enjoy. Well, hello, Miss BJ Word. Thank you so much for joining me on the Live Set Apart podcast.
Thank you for the invitation.
I am so excited to be able to talk to you. I know it has been a while since we've even spoken to each other, but do know I've been keeping up with you. I've been following Facebook, Instagram. So I've seen all the great things that you're doing, and it's just so exciting. And I just knew when I was kicking off this podcast and thinking about possible guests, I knew that you were going to be one. So thank you for taking the time to be here today. So let's just jump right out the gate and talk about freedom.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
Yes. You know, I've always admired you, whether you knew that or not. But one thing that always stood out about you is that you are just free to be you. And so whether you felt that 100% of the time or not, it was evident to me and it was inspiring. So I know it was years ago when we first met, but all that time ago, I always looked at you as someone who was just free. So it makes sense to me that the burden of your heart is for other people to be free.
Yes.
So just tell me a little bit about that.
Wow, it is so amazing that that's the first topic here, because I'm actually going to start doing short videos for the next 31 days for every day in July, a video a day, and it's going to be 31 freedom tips. Okay, I'm going to give people a freedom tip every day. Because so many times I think we misunderstand what freedom is, what it looks like. And we I think in our society now, we're taking it as no boundaries at all. And that's not, freedom has a responsibility. Right. You have something to do with it once you're free. And then so many times we have this image of freedom in front of other people, but we're not that internally. We're not mentally free. And so I think it's amazing to me that you say that, because for so long, during the time that I've known you, I suffered with depression. I used to have terrible panic attacks, anxiety attacks. And I had gone through some suicidal times, quite a few. And so I was able to kind of look free in front of other people, but the real prison was on the inside of my mind. The real torture, the real slavery was happening inside of me. And so I think that once I got to that place where I'm okay with me inside, then it's even more, evident now externally. And I think that that's where my burden comes from, is trying to help other people to really, really live in the freedom that God has promised us. He's not torturing you. He's not condemning you. He's not, doing all these things and putting you in this bondage. So who are you to be bigger than him and say, no, I'm gonna be in bondage, whether you like it or not, God. And that's what some of us do. So when I strive for freedom, I want it all. I want it mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. I want to be free in every area. Financial, I don't want any bondage, period. And
Yes.
so that's kind of where I stand with that. And that's what the 31 days, 31 freedom tips will be about in July.
Well, I'm excited about that. I'm absolutely excited. I want to
Right.
know more about how you got to this place where you are free to be. And
Mm-hmm.
how was it, like I said before, I met you so many years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
when I looked at you, you looked free, free to me, but internally, maybe you weren't free. So, how did you get from that place to where you are now? And what was it? Was there a struggle going on while we were seeing you as free, but you weren't free at all?
Such a conflict. Yes, there was so much struggle and conflict going on. I think for so long I lived the way that I thought other people wanted me to live. I lived in a way that was more comfortable for other folks. I think trying to be less of myself, so to speak, or thinking that if I'm quieter, if I'm not as bold, if I'm not, the type of person that always speaks out, maybe people will like me more. Maybe it'll be easier to get a man if I'm not as verbal and as
Mm,
vocal. Okay, maybe I'll be married if I'm that quiet, shy type.
mm,
And that's a torturing way to live.
right.
Just basically being a people pleaser for
Mm-hmm.
so long. And it was a struggle. It was a fight. I had to fight to get to this place of peace. It came at the cost of war. It just
Mm-hmm.
really did. But it was worth it. Every single step was worth it. And so I had to get to a place, first of all, where I understood my purpose. What am I
Mm-hmm.
here for? Okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Why did God create me this way? Why am I the person
Mm,
that feels this fire on the inside to say something? Why am I the person that wants to speak truth? Okay, speak truth to
right.
power. Why am I that person? Why am I that person that's going to be vocal and that's going to speak up and that's going to say, hey, this isn't right. We need to do something else. Why
Mm-hmm.
am I like that? And once I understood that we all have a purpose, we
Mm-hmm.
all have a place. We are all created a certain way for a reason. And if you're sitting up here trying to be the engine when you were made to be the steering wheel, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't understand the purpose of the steering wheel, you're going to be, in constant conflict with yourself. Once I got to the place where I was like, oh, that's why I'm this way. Because the way when I'm being authentically me, that's when people see God in me. They can't
Mm-hmm.
see him with all they see is BJ when I'm sitting up here trying to be like somebody else. Okay.
Right.
When I'm being the version of me that he created, when I'm being the person that he created, that's how they see that side of God in me.
Yes.
I think that we limit God so often and don't realize that he's a God of variety. We have so many different type of fruits. We have so many different species of just fish. Okay, that's just one animal. They
Right.
haven't even discovered all of the different types of fish in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So that just shows you that God is a God of variety. He could have just made one type of
Right.
fish. He could have just made one type of fruit. He could have just made apples. Okay, he didn't just make apples, oranges, bananas, grapes. He made a whole bunch of different type of apples. So it's
Exactly.
like there is a purpose behind the way that each and every one of us was made and created. And I think part of my journey, a big part of my journey has just been discovering that I am the type of person who comes into contact with a lot of people who are at conflict within themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so getting to a place where I am free to be who I am, it frees other people to be who they are. Just something as simple as going on a solo trip. There
Mm-hmm.
are so many people who on the flip side of that were like, man, I didn't even think about doing something like that. How did you get the courage to do that? And by showing that they had the courage to do it.
Right.
And so I'm made like I'm made for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I've accepted that I'm made like I'm made for a reason, some people are going to accept me, some people are going to reject me because of
Right.
that, and that's okay.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. I, for one, could not imagine. I mean, who would BJ Word be if her personality wasn't what it is?
Right.
And so, and I've been there too. I've been in that place. I've been in situations where I'm like sitting on my tongue, like, okay, don't say anything because everybody gonna roll their eyes because you want
Mm-hmm.
things that you. I believe in doing things in excellence. Everyone isn't
Mm-hmm.
there yet. And
Mm-hmm.
I've sat on my hands and I've bitten my tongue several times because I didn't want to, be
Mm-hmm.
Valerie. They know
Mm-hmm.
Valerie is going to say something
Mm-hmm.
about this.
Mm-hmm.
But when I do, speak up or do whatever needs to be done, not only do I feel better, as you just said, but it makes things better. So
Right.
it is very freeing when you can just be, and it's not like, okay, I'm perfect. It is what it is. It's just
Right.
me, take it or
Right.
leave it. But the essence of who we are,
Mm-hmm.
that is what it is. That's how
Exactly.
God created us,
Exactly.
and the
Yeah.
world needs it.
Yeah, and you know said something so important about it's not just well I'm me and I'm perfect and just take it as it is what it is, but part of freedom is even having the room to grow, just
Yeah.
giving yourself the to being free to say, okay, I don't have it all together, so let me see how much better I can become. Let me be a better woman tomorrow. That is freeing. That just knowing that, yeah, I'm here, but I still got a ways to go too.
Yes, exactly. Well, girl, you have this burden and you're tasked with speaking into the lives of others. And God gifted you to be able to pull this off in a variety of ways. And when I think about that, it's almost like, the saying, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Because God is just so amazing in that way where he
Mhm.
already knows the purpose. He already knows why he birthed us in
Mhm.
the earth, and he already knows the plans that he has for us. We have to,
Right.
grow into what it is that he has put us here for, and we discover these things that we're actually operating in. We've had these gifts in us all along. I mean, he
Mhm.
prepared us for it from
Mhm.
the beginning, and it's just so beautiful how it works out that way, and especially in your story,
Mhm.
because I mean, your gift was obvious when I first met you. I believe it was during a performance. So what
Totally.
are, and you have other gifts too, so what are some of your gifts, BJ?
I think that definitely I have a prophetic gift, and I think that that is dominant, and it just comes out in a lot of different ways. As I even just think about that question, I think you can express a prophetic gift in different ways. So, sometimes even when it comes out as poetry or spoken word, it's still a prophetic gift. There have
Mhm.
been times when I would write a poem and somebody would come up to me and say, "Oh my God, that's exactly what I was going through." It's like God told you to say that. Well, he did. And so there's a long time that I didn't realize that that's what was happening. But even when I write now, I say, okay, Lord, what is it that you would have me to say to this particular group of people?
Mm.
And then
Mhm.
I can take it and make it rhyme, but it's literally his message to them. And I
Mhm.
think that happens in counseling sessions, when I'm
Mhm.
counseling other people, that happens when I'm teaching, it happens when I'm making a video. And so I think it all hinges on though that prophetic gift, just hearing from him and
Mhm.
then being able to speak into the lives of other people. And I think that's also why it irritates some folks, but it's not, I didn't say it, I'm just a messenger. So I think that's the main thing, is to just be a messenger for him and to be whatever it is that he calls me to be, and just staying true to that, because for a long time I ran from it.
Mhm.
I just because whenever you think of prophetic gifts, you think of something weird and spooky and all of that, but it's
Yeah.
just hearing from God. It's just a messenger. I know a lot of rappers that are prophetic and they may not even realize it at the time,
Mhm.
but they're rapping about something 15 years ago that's happening right now. And
Yeah.
so just getting to a place where I'm comfortable with that. And then, just also a gift for teaching and for I even think it comes out in administration and in
Mhm.
how I'm able to help other people organize things.
Mhm.
Um, and being able to speak into people's lives, that's because I'm saying what God is telling me to say to that
Mhm.
person. That's the only reason that it works.
Right.
Otherwise it won't.
Right.
it won't
And
it
that's the
won't take
key.
effect.
That is the key. And we in episode 1 of Live Set Apart, Dr. Nina and I talked about staying connected to the vine. And you
Mhm.
basically just said that's how you're able to operate in your prophetic gift, because
Mhm.
you go to the Lord first to
Mhm.
see what is it that you even want me to say to
Mhm.
your people.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
he gives you the words to say. And that's
Mhm.
how you are impactful, because like you said, they're his words
Mhm.
and you're just
Absolutely.
the vessel.
Mhm.
You are just the vessel. We are the vessels.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, helping other people to realize that we're all vessels. Sometimes you can taste somebody's cooking and it's macaroni, but it's just something different. Like, what did they do? That's I think even God flowing through that person to give them the recipe that sets them apart. from other people. And
Yeah.
so you don't have to be Kraft. You don't have to be, Martha Stewart. You can do it the way that he's giving you to do it, no matter what it is. I think that it's God's way of speaking through all of us, whether you're a visual artist or you write plays or you program computers.
Yeah.
You may have a gift to be able to do that, and an anointing on that nobody else can do it like that,
Yeah.
and it's literally him pouring into
Mm-hmm.
you. I think we overcomplicate that. And if we all can just be who he's calling us to be and just letting him flow through you in whatever way it is, man, the world would be such a different place if we all did
Yes. OMBJ, we must be sisters because
that.
you're speaking, you just vocalize the exact purpose of this podcast, which is to
Wow.
get people to realize that all they need to do, we do overcomplicate things. All they have to do is just be who God created us to be.
That's
And
it.
like you
That's
said,
it.
and I know sometimes I have these idealistic, I just have some wild, big ideals. And it's like, if everybody in the world just caught that, could you just imagine? Could you
It would
just
be
imagine?
so much better. There would be enough of everything for everybody if we all
Yes.
just said, you just wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, God, what you want me to do today? How you want to flow through
Yeah.
me today? It would
Yes.
just be so different, so much better,
I
so
know.
much.
I know. I'm gonna hold on to it. There will be a
Yeah.
revival before the end, and we will get to
Hmm.
see that in this earth. I'm just saying it now.
Absolutely.
I don't have a
Absolutely.
prophetic gift, but I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm gonna declare
Absolutely.
it. I'm
Absolutely.
gonna declare that will happen.
Yes.
So your purpose is to inspire lives one word at a time. I love it.
Thank you.
And like I said before, I remember you doing that since I first knew you. And so some people, they struggle with, what's my purpose, Lord? What am I here for? What am I supposed to do in life?
Hmm.
You didn't have that struggle. Your struggle wasn't discovering your purpose, but being comfortable enough to
Hmm.
live it out.
Hmm.
So what has that journey been like?
It's been interesting. Just a lot of people think that BJ Word is a stage name, and Word is my real life last name.
Oh, wow.
WORD is not a stage name. That's my daddy's name. So, just early on, I've always been talkative. I was younger. My mama, I don't know if you remember Barbara Walters when she was in her prime on the
Hmm.
news. My mama, when I was younger, used to call me Beverly Barbara Walters Word. She used to say it, Beverly Barbara Walters, because I talked a lot and because I was able to engage people in conversation at a very,
Hmm.
very, very young age. And I could get people to talk who normally wouldn't. And,
Hmm.
folks would just say, this little girl got so much personality. So, from very early on, and I've been writing spoken word and poetry for a long time. Uh, I guess I was about 8 as far as I can remember the first solid piece of substance that I wrote, and my parents were like, "Oh, wow." And so I think that coming into who I am, even my last name, I used to not like it. Because kids made fun of it. I mean, word up, word them up. I got so sick of hearing that. Like I could not take it. And then my first name was Beverly. There was this little boy in elementary school that used to be like, Beverly Hills 90210, word up. He used to say it every single day. And I just hated it. And so part of just starting to really, really walk in my purpose was really just shaking off who other people expected me to be and becoming more comfortable with who God had for me to be. And
Hmm.
that journey has looked like getting to a place where it was just impossible not to. I
Hmm.
can't not be me at this point.
Hmm.
Um, I come alive when I'm doing this right here. I
Hmm.
come alive when I'm in front of somebody pouring into them. When I'm on a stage with a microphone in my hand and I'm speaking whatever God had for me. I'm breathing. That's
Hmm.
air for me. So trying to dumb that down, trying to, well, I'm just gonna keep on going to school and doing all these other different things. And every little area of distraction was almost like torture because
Hmm.
that's just not, it, like I said, it's like trying to put the engine where the steering wheel goes and the steering, the steering wheel where the engine goes. How far are you gonna get like that? You're
Right.
not get very far. So it's been that journey of just really learning to love myself,
Mm-hmm.
flaws and all, learning to embrace all of who I am, sitting with those parts of me that were depressed, that were suicidal, and asking myself why, how did I get right here? How am I going to get out? And what does this look like in terms of pouring into other people and still having self-care, all of those things. And just,
Mm-hmm.
again, realizing that if I'm not doing what it is that I was placed here to do, somebody's going to be at a deficit, somebody else, not just me, but other people as well, because it's hinging on, it's a whole bunch of people in your car. It's not just you. So
Right.
you don't switch the steering wheel and the engine. You're not gonna get where you need to be, and the people you're called to, they're not gonna get where they need to be either. So I think we're all, we're put here for a specific purpose, and a lot of us are called to specific people. So
Mm-hmm.
part of my journey of getting to a place where I'm like, you know what, okay, I'm comfortable walking in this, is accepting that I'm not for everybody. As much as I love
Yeah.
ketchup, some people hate it. As much as avocados are so good for you, I hear about
Mm-hmm.
how healthy they are. You could put them on anything. Now, I cannot stand the taste of avocado. I wish I liked it because it's so healthy. I literally did tell you, it's okay for me not to like it. Because I can get my fats, my healthy fats and stuff from somewhere else. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? So
Mm-hmm.
that's the same way with me walking my purpose, is that my purpose is designed for this particular people who are ready to take me. God is speaking through me to them because he's already prepared them for the gift that I'm getting ready to bring. Those who would not
Exactly.
receive that, he got somebody else and something else for that. And that's okay. So
Yes.
part of it is just accepting that, this isn't all me, really. Just take
Yes.
the mail and put it in the mailbox where he tell you to put it. It's really that simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you have definitely found joy in living out your purpose. I mean, I can hear it even in our conversation now. What brings you the most joy out of it?
Oh, wow. That is an excellent question. I think there's so many different things. I think off the top of my head, I would definitely say being able to see other people grow, see other people benefit from what God is doing in me. I think just knowing that I'm being used by the Lord is a humbling thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a privilege. And so just feeling that connection, that oneness, knowing that he wants to talk to me, he wants to speak through me, he wants to use me despite all of my, crap and junk and issues or whatever. I think that may bring me the most joy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just knowing that in that moment when I'm flowing, like literally God is talking through me right now. That's unbelievable. That is in itself my evidence and proof that he exists. That's how you
Yes.
can never shake me and never tell me that my faith is not accurate and it's
Mm-hmm.
not real, because I know it is. I know when it's not me, and
Mm-hmm.
we all have talents or whatever, but and there are some things I'm just talented to do, but then those moments when I'm operating in the gift that God has given me, I know in it I can't get that reaction out of you. That's
Yes.
not me. So I think that brings me the most joy. Counseling other people, definitely, doing spoken word and motivational speaking. I get joy out of all of it because it changes me at the same time that it's changing
Mm-hmm.
other people. There's never a moment when I'm not growing from it as well as other people are growing from it. So the whole experience is joyful for me.
Yeah. Now you kind of touched on distractions a few minutes ago, and I know that life happens and even setbacks happens, and then there are distractions all around us. What is it that keeps you focused? Because now, I can hear that you are focused. You just said it's the air that you
Mhm,
breathe to operate in your purpose.
mhm,
So what is it
mhm.
that keeps you focused?
I think just realizing that I'm on a journey for a reason. I don't have time to be distracted. I don't have time to not be focused on things. I have to keep the main thing, as Bishop Bronner
Mhm.
always says,
Yeah.
keeping the goal ahead of me. I think that one of the main things right now, in this point in time, that's keeping me focused is realizing that I'm on a mandate, like I'm on an assignment,
Mhm.
and I don't have time to dawdle around and play. Okay. I just
Mhm.
don't. So I think that's what keeps me moving forward, and knowing that there's something greater than where I am right now. The desire for it, the want to reach it. All of that is just what keeps me going, like, okay. Because what does it help anybody for me to be distracted and look at all around over the place. And sometimes
Mhm.
we look at distractions as always things that are negative, but you can have things that are good that distract you too.
Mhm.
um and for a long time I was distracted in that way,
Mhm.
helping everybody with everything, just doing a look, just all over the place, doing everything and not really doing the thing that I needed to be doing.
Mhm.
So I've learned how to streamline, and learn how to say no, and learn how to keep my eye on the goal.
Mhm.
I think that's what helps me.
Well, while we're talking about setbacks, you you have a strategy on how you handle setbacks. And it sounds simple, but it's really not. And your strategy is to be flexible. And we had to be flexible even in the beginning of this interview.
Yes. Yes.
But your strategy is to be flexible. And I know I myself, I'm quick to come up with plans A through Z, like in the moment.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, this didn't work, we'll do this. But I have a tendency to put God in a box in some ways because there are things that I want Him to do for me that aren't happening the way that I planned or hoped.
Hmm.
And I get frustrated. And, you mentioned about, even being flexible and, the things how God can work. And
Hmm.
so I love your positive outlook on flexibility and setbacks. Can you just
Hmm.
share a little bit more about it?
Yeah, for sure. Bishop talks about this too. If you don't learn how to bend, you are going to break. Period. So you have to learn how to bend so that you won't break. And I think in my life that has been major for me is learning how to remain flexible when something happens, when something comes up that you did not expect, you did not plan for. What are you going to do? There are so many different ways to get from here to California. Some you can take a million different routes to get there, but if all you're doing is thinking of this one way that you planned out, because this is the way in your head, and you're looking for these specific signs, and you didn't account for these hurdles and all of that, it's going to delay you and your destination. And sometimes you may set out, you're supposed to go to California, and then God starts telling you the direction to go, and it look like you on your way to New York. Not realizing that it's something in New York that you need, and
Mm,
you won't realize you need it until you get to California. So
mm,
sometimes those setbacks, they're really not. They setbacks to our plan. They're not
mm-hmm.
setbacks to God's plan necessarily. A lot of times our plan B, C, and D was His plan A. It's like, I put this right here on purpose because you needed to pick up some patience. You needed to pick up a little bit more
Mm.
temperance. I had to get you before I could hand you this $1,000,000. I had to get you to a place where those addictive tendencies on the inside of you are gone. A lot of times we don't realize the things that's really on the inside of us until you start getting blessed. Okay.
Mhm,
Sometimes that big thing that people want so bad, He's delaying it because it'll mess you up and it'll kill you if He give it to you at a state of immaturity.
mhm.
So it's one thing to say, oh, I'll never do that. I'll never do this. I'll never do the other. But some stuff you just haven't been exposed to. So
Yes.
you have to get to a place where, the Lord is like taking you along this path of what looks like a setback and a fallout. And it's really not. It's just part of your growth process. Now, there are some things that we cause that
Yes.
are setbacks. But then even with those, you can be flexible, and there's something to learn in that.
Mhm,
So with me, depression was a definite setback for me. You know what I mean? And so, but it was a learning tool. Now
mhm.
I have something that I can use even with my clients in mental health sessions. I don't just have to talk to them from a book. I can talk to you from, oh,
Right.
I've been right there. Yeah.
Right.
You know how you can get on the other side of that. You can do A, B, C, D, and E. But just knowing that I jumped over that hurdle. I saw the same hurdle. I saw that hole right there. And now I'm on the other side of it. That gives people a different type of hope when you're able to share in that and to say these were the setbacks, and you don't have to necessarily give up right here just because you got this big hole in front of you.
Yes. And we just have to trust. We have to
Yes.
trust that
Mm-hmm.
this huge God,
Mm-hmm.
who this amazing God
Right.
who
Mm-hmm.
loves us to life, who created us for these purposes and has a
Mm-hmm.
plan for us. We
Right.
have to just trust that he is in control, and whatever has happened along the way, it was orchestrated by
Yeah.
him, or he's going to use it. Even when we do cause our own
Absolutely.
setbacks, he can still use
Absolutely.
it for his glory. We
Absolutely.
just have to trust that. We have to
Yeah.
trust that.
And we're seeing such a small fraction, such a
Mhm.
small piece of it. All we see is this one tree in front of us, and he's looking at this whole forest like, dude,
Mm.
that's just one tree. And out here have given up, you've gotten discouraged, and you sitting down right here just looking at this tree when there's so many different ways around this, and if you pay attention, I'm about to give you a saw because you just don't know it's going to get cold in about 2 weeks, and you're going to be the only one standing out here with wood, and now you can sell
Mm.
this wood because this tree was in your way, and it's
Yes.
like you don't realize that at the time that you're going through it, or the time that you come up against those things. So you do have to really trust God and just remain flexible. Don't be so rigid that you can't see that there's always another path to where you're trying to go,
Yes.
always.
Yes. And I'm relieved that I'm now in a place where, I guess through 2020, when just seeing how short and fragile life is, it's just like, well, it is what it is. I have no other choice but to
Right.
trust that you
Yeah.
got this under control.
Like, oh, okay then. All right.
Right.
I always say to people, you can't do nothing about what you can't do nothing about. So if there are things that you can change them. But those
Yes.
things that you can't change, you can't do anything about it. That myth of control is gone.
Mm,
We realize that we're not in control as much as we thought we were. So you might as well just, in some cases, sit back and relax and go along for the ride.
yes. Well, we touched on this earlier about just the mission of this podcast, and it's all about encouraging listeners to be who God created them to be.
Mm-hmm.
Their authentic self. And you even mentioned that in the questions I asked you earlier. But we want people to be their authentic self, not anyone
Mm-hmm.
else. And a
Mm-hmm.
major obstacle to that, to being that person who God created us to be, is comparison. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk about this a lot in this podcast because,
Mm-hmm.
for one, is one thing that had held me back in the
Mm-hmm.
past. And I want listeners to know that, they're not alone. If they have dealt with comparison, they're
Mm-hmm.
they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And there are ways to get past that and to overcome it in
Mm-hmm.
order to actually do the things that God created us to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of your struggles, and we touched on this earlier about comparison, was about, you know, the very essence was dealing with the very essence of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about, we know now that you're past that, but can you hone in a little more on how you got past that, and what the
Mm-hmm.
process was like? Like, was it over years, or did you just all of a sudden have a sudden awakening?
I definitely think it was over years. It was over some time. And I don't necessarily know that you get to a place where you just quit doing that forever.
Mm-hmm.
There are constantly just other images around you. There are other the social media is, I have a love-hate relationship with social media, because it's there. That's what we do. We compare ourselves to other
Right.
people all day long. Oh, her butt is firmer than mine. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
her stomach is thinner than mine. Ooh, her skin lighter than mine. Ooh, her
Mm-hmm.
her skin is darker than mine. I mean, it's just all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that is just a constant journey. I think you grow in it,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where you're not doing it in the same way or as much as before. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's still something that you may struggle with, people may
Mm-hmm.
struggle with. And so for me, it was a step by step thing of getting to a place where I am fully okay with who I am. And so when I, finally got to that space, there's no need for me to compare myself to someone else, and I think a big part of it for me too was for this journey was just realizing that I don't have to know all the things. I don't have to be all things to all people. We live in a society now, especially and I'm just gonna say this, especially amongst Black women, where we feel like we have to be superwoman. We feel like you're looked down upon if you don't know how to sew and make the meal from scratch and clean the house from top to bottom. And this is not an old school thing. This is what us doing this generation right here, us. Well, I can do this, and all these 15 things. And then you look down on your sister. She says she don't know how to make peach cobbler. Well, I don't know how to make peach cobbler. I don't even like peach cobbler, so I don't know how to make one from scratch. And guess what? I don't care. I don't have to know how to make it. I know somebody that know how to make it real good. So if I have a friend or, I get married and he like peach cobbler from scratch, then sugar, I sure know where to get you one from. That's not my thing, and so it's okay for it to not be my thing because it may be my sister's thing. And I think just getting to that place where you are able to say, well, girl, I don't know how to do that. And being okay with not knowing how to do that. Perfectionism was a problem for me for so long. And I didn't realize that was coming from comparing myself to other people. I didn't even like making a mistake in front of other people. When I would go to the studio to record spoken word, I would just drill myself before that because I didn't want to even make any mistakes in front of the producer. Crazy is that? It's rehearsal.
Right.
That's what it's for. You're supposed to make mistakes, And I think that, just getting to a place where I'm like, okay with that, realizing that my mistakes are here to help me to learn something and realizing that I don't have to be 100 at all of the things. I'm not trying to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So if I can hone this skill that I do have and focus in on the gift that I do have, it keeps you from being scatterbrained, and it keeps me from looking over here saying so-and-so is doing such and such better than me. Well, then good for that person. They're doing it at the level that they're supposed to do it. I just need to do it on a level that I'm supposed to do it on.
Right. I love it. I love it. You know what? I would love to have you back on the podcast when you're, not too busy with your own podcast that's coming out soon.
Okay.
But I'd love to have you back on for one of the unpacking episodes where we just kind of focus on some key points from the interview and do a deep dive and share like practical ways that people can implement these things in their lives, because you have a wealth of knowledge and so much wisdom and that professional background as well, that professional expertise. And I mean, you're just plain awesome.
I have a sign on my door in my office that says I'm awesome.
Yeah, you are.
Maybe different. Thank you.
You are awesome, girl.
I have to think that. I have to believe that. I have to say that to myself. I can't convince anybody else of that if I don't say that, if I don't believe it myself, and so even in my profession, people come to me at rock bottom. Nobody's coming to me because life is great for them and they love it and they just want to sit down and share about how awesome things are. People are coming to me because they've totally lost hope. They have no encouragement. They are empty, and so if I'm not full, where am I going to pour from? I can't speak life into them if I feel dead on the inside myself. It's a struggle. It would be a struggle to do that. Right. So, one of the things, especially when I'm speaking to a group, when I'm talking about how awesome I am, the room lights up. And that's not, they don't know me. That's that feeling of, man, wow, if she thinks that about herself, maybe I can think that about myself. That's what it's about.
Yes, definitely. Well, BJ, we are out of time.
All right. I had a good time.
We are out of time. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm confident that the things that you have shared during this interview will impact the lives of our listeners and at least get them to thinking, about, how to feel better about themselves, more comfortable with themselves and what
Yes,
God has given them and their position in the world and their gift and their purpose. So
absolutely.
I just thank you so much again for taking the
Thank
time to speak
you.
with me. Like I said, I definitely had you on my list from day one of planning this thing out.
Awesome. Thank you
So
so much.
I'm so
Thank you.
grateful. Before we go, could you share a word to encourage our listeners to either discover or walk out or to just continue operating in their God designed purpose?
Absolutely. To those listeners, I would just say it is so worth it to be who God authentically created you to be. It is only, I believe, when you are being who He purposed you to be, that other people can see Him on the inside of you. That is really, really what I believe. So it's worth it. Every single thing that you have to go through in order to get to that point is worth it for you, and it's worth it when you get ready to share with others.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.